It's a great pleasure and honor to welcome you on the Effective Branding and Marketing for Africa session in the panel. And Africa has been, Mama Africa, I should say, is welcoming us to explore the whole range of different resources and the wonderful things and experience that it has got to give us. Africa tourism is bringing to Africa about 8.5 of the GDP. It brings about 71 million arrivals and about $40 billion. This, of course, 2019 numbers. And those of us who have been working with Africa for many years will know the range of experiences that can offer and how regenerative and transformative those experiences are. We don't have a lot of time, and we've got some fantastic colleagues in the panel, and I would like to introduce them. The Honorable Minister Najib Balala from Kenya, who needs no introductions, is one of the most active tourism ministers in the world, and he is probably the only minister in the world that has got the title of Minister of Tourism and Wildlife, and he is at the essence of sustainability and how he's doing, how Africa is actually driving tourism. Wonderful to see you, Minister Balala. We've got Clare Akamanzi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Rwanda Development Board. Clare is a very experienced executive. She has worked with the Office of the Minister of the President in the past, and she had an international career in 7 countries, in 3 continents, doing a whole range of things in international trade and investment. Then we've got my good friend Cuthbert Ncube, who is the chairman of the African Tourist Board based in South Africa. He's a very seasoned tourism professional, running his different organizations, including a hotel, and he's the chairman of the African Tourist Board. And we've got all the way from Shanghai, China, we've got Marcus Lee, who is the chairman of the Small and Medium Enterprises Business Owner Association in China. And Marcus is very much involved in China investment, and he has been driving a whole range of initiatives to bring investment in Africa and around the world for tourism. So I can introduce you for a long time, but I think people and audience can actually see your credentials. I'd like to open this conversation and say, look, obviously, we've been discussing about Africa for a long time, and I'd like to know some of the latest initiatives that you are taking in Kenya and then Pan-African and then in Rwanda about marketing and branding of Africa, and how you bring Africa to the world in a way that we communicate the beauty and the resources of Africa. Minister, would you like to start, please?
Yes. Thank you very much, Professor. Nice to meet you again, and I'm glad I'm meeting my good friend, the chairman of African Tourism Board, and Marcus. Nice to see you again. Claire, you are my neighbor here, so it's very good to see you. Professor, thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm glad we are talking about branding Africa. The unfortunate part is that the continent of Africa is not homogeneous. It's not homogeneous in terms of language. It's not homogeneous in terms of political regimes. And again, the only thing we can pride ourselves as Africa is that we have a diverse product across the continent in the neighborhood. That is the positive angle about the continent of Africa. And there are many challenges about it. The only thing that I can see, the stigmatization by international media about the image of Africa. And we need, this is the time probably we in the continent of Africa need to change the narrative. The narrative is not about wars in Africa, it's not about diseases in Africa. Look at the pandemic itself. Despite we have weak health institutions, we have been spared from the rest of the world. We don't celebrate for the rest of the world, but we have been spared. And we took measures in Africa, much more stringent measures than the rest of the world. And that's why we have been spared. But unfortunately, we are again being categorized as most of the countries in Africa as in the red list of countries that have been sanctioned of no travel to the continent of Africa. And this is totally not acceptable. This stigmatization, I'm sorry to say that, is still a hangover of colonialization. We are not colonized anymore. We are a free nation, and we need to come to say the truth. We have managed our pandemic in a better way than most parts of the world. But again, whenever we want to move forward in terms of branding the continent, we are being pulled back by different stigmatized institutions. For example, Africa is not the dark continent anymore. Africa has the largest population of young people below 30 years old. Africa is the future. Africa is where the resources are. Africa is where it has everything in one continent. That is Africa. It has the weather, it has the people, and the middle class population is double. And also a double-digit increase of GDP is in the African continent. But I see the challenge, Professor, is that there's still stigma against the continent of Africa, and that is what we should work together to remove it. It's easy to say that we can rebrand, but it's not about us alone talking about the positive angle. It's about to make people change their minds against the continent of Africa.
I think it's a matter of communication, and I think there are two types of people in this world: people who have never been to Africa and Africa lovers. And I think what we need to do is we need to make people to take their first trip to Africa, no matter where they go, because they come back with such a rich experience that they tell your story and they bring out the love for Africa. And it's not an accident I call it Mama Africa. Every time I come to Africa, this is what comes out. And but I think at some stage, African nations and those of you in power, you really need to bring together all the resources and all the efforts to actually communicate this beauty and communicate all the good things that you're doing and all this experience that you've got.
Professor, it's not about us communicating. It's people want to communicate on our behalf. We are communicating. Yeah. We are doing everything to communicate what is right. But I think some, or the world agenda wants to communicate a different agenda for the continent of Africa. And this is the stigma we must remove. How do we remove? Can we remove it ourselves as Africans? Or do we just find an alternative ways of removing this stigma? I think the problem is stigma. It's not about us failing to communicate. It's stigma. And you correctly said, anybody coming to the continent of Africa gets the bag of Africa. They don't want to go back. Yep. They want to stay here. Look, when we locked down Kenya, and then slowly we opened up. More than 60% of the people who came, international people who came to Kenya, are people who want to run away from their countries and coming to Kenya and stay here and avoid the pandemic in Europe or in America. So yes,
fantastic.
This was a safer haven during the pandemic. And the continent of Africa, because of the weather, because of nature, because of openness, this is the safer place to be during this pandemic.
Let's bring Clare in to see her perspective from Rwanda. I think at least you've got on this panel, you've got two African lovers. I can see Marcus agreeing with you, and I've been a good ambassador for Africa for a long time. Clare, how do you see yourself from Rwanda and your experience? How Africa can actually bring this message out, and how can we use marketing to rebrand Africa?
Thank you very much, Dimitrios, and I'm very delighted to join this discussion. So I am the CEO of the Rwanda Development Board. Our job is to promote private sector and tourism. So I'm also in charge of tourism in Rwanda. And for us, branding has been everything about what we try to do for tourism. And Minister Balala was very right about Africa not being homogeneous. And trying to also, but Africa is seen as if it's homogeneous. So very important that we collectively work at addressing the perception of the African continent as countries, because even though we're not homogeneous, many times we're seen as if we're one, and that becomes something that really affects us. Now, for Rwanda, we have a history of the genocide against the Tutsis, which we're actually commemorating this week. And for a long time, Rwanda was seen as the country that had a genocide against the Tutsis. So for us to rebrand and market Rwanda, we had to think very differently and also in a very bold way. And we put in so many reforms and initiatives that are very different. For example, we advertise with Arsenal and PSG. And if you watch an Arsenal game in the Premier League today, or if you watch PSG playing, you will see Visit Rwanda on the sleeves of their shirts or on the back of their shirts or even in the stadium. And when we did that, the world was very shocked about a country like Rwanda promoting tourism in a Premier League football club. But even though it sounded controversial and unusual, it brought a lot of branding capital on Rwanda. And we had a lot of people coming to Rwanda just to be curious. This country that was able to advertise on Arsenal, we want to visit. The first year of advertising with Arsenal, we had a 17% growth of tourism. And we did a survey together with the Arsenal Football Club and even PSG, and the likelihood of people visiting Rwanda because of seeing Rwanda in these platforms was very important. So that's an example of some of the bold initiatives we took to brand Rwanda and also to make ourselves known globally. But for us, the second point I want to make is that what makes us really a good brand is the experience. Because when tourists come to Rwanda, they talk about the experience. Recently, we had on CNN, Richard Quest, some of you who watched CNN, when he came to Rwanda just a few weeks ago, he said that it exceeded his expectations. Now, our goal is to make sure that when people come to Rwanda, we exceed the expectations. They find a country that is physically very clean, no litter on the streets. They find a country that has infrastructure that works. They find an experience in tourism national parks that is really a very exceptional experience. That actually is the real brand, the experience that we have, and we really invest a lot of money in making sure that the experience speaks for itself. And then maybe the last point I want to talk about is partnerships. If you want to brand and market, you can't rely on just the tourism board doing that. For us, we partnered, for example, with Qatar Airways to bring travel to Rwanda, between Rwanda and Qatar Airways. It's a joint venture we've signed. We also partnered with lodges like Wilderness Safari, Singita, who on their own do a lot of marketing. So bringing companies to invest in Rwanda, bring their FDI here, and then they become part of the partners of marketing. It has been crucially important in promoting tourism for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And it's really, really critical that we do not confuse marketing and promotion, because marketing is all about bringing everything together. And I think there are so many wonderful stories that are coming out of Africa that they'll reach the world. So I would deeply encourage you to involve the young people that they're going around with their mobiles, taking pictures of everyday life and how wonderful everything is in different neighborhoods, and spread these images, because this is the authentic kind of Africa that we would like to experience.
And social media is possible.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's absolutely, and it's very cost effective. So you don't necessarily need to invest huge amount of money on different things, but to bring out the wonderful experience. And I know that Cuthbert shares that, because we have discussed that in different forums. But I really want Cuthbert to tell us, how is the African Tourist Board coming forward, and how you're engaging different people from around Africa to bring this message out and provide the new kind of image of Africa out? You need to unmute.
Right.
Thank you.
That's fine. No, thank you so much, Prof. It's a blessing to see you once again with my honorable minister. It's so good to see you. You still look younger almost every time when we get together. And Clara, thank you so much. We really appreciate. I'm looking forward to meet with you physically. during your conference that is actually around the corner. And Professor Lee, thank you so much. It's good to see you. Yes, as African Tourism Board, we will always say travel and tourism sector, it is the only development as on the principles of sustainable economic activity that should be a stimulating factor of growth through collaborations. If there was a time to appropriate policy development that drives and addresses in a holistical way, present the continent as a bloc, it is now. Continental integration and cooperation is the core and vital for a sustainable development of the tourism economies in Africa. I so much allude with the Honorable Minister what he has indicated that it's been long when somebody has been writing our own history. It has been long that somebody who does not even reside in Africa, he presents our image in Africa. Imagine, Prof, if all the member states, 54 member states, if we could shout with one voice simultaneously, we are talking of rebranding our lovely continent. There is power in unity. So therefore, we have so much to achieve, collectively as a bloc, yet so fragmented in our approach towards building a sustainable, solid economic power based in Africa. I still believe that Africa owes so much to the global community, yet our people, they are still living in poverty. So we need a continental integration and cooperation. And by the way, we don't need conferences that do not yield practical and tangible results in the recovery and development, not only within the framework of tourism sectors, but recovery and development in Africa's economies across the spectrum. That hasn't been much of an African populace. So we need to see a full participation and beneficiation of the economic inclusion in our continent. As much as we appreciate, the inroads from Rwanda, we need to be able to pollinate among ourselves. Let us shout with one voice in rebranding and rewriting our own narrative as Africans and sell to the world. We have so much to offer.
And I think that's the opportunity. I absolutely agree with you. And Cuthbert, I've been, as you know, supporting the African Tourist Board for a long time. And I think during the pandemic, it brought leadership from all over the world and brought resources and knowledge from all over the world to actually support the continent to come out and bring all this wonderful experience and all these wonderful ideas together. Let me invite Marcus into join us and share his view, and because we are outsiders from Africa, but we are African lovers. So I think we have been good ambassadors of Africa around the world. And I'd like to see how Marcus see from an investment opportunity, what are the conditions in terms of marketing and branding that they'll facilitate investment and what will enable us to actually move forward. Marcus.
Thank you, Professor. I want to clarify, although I sit as the chairman of the SME Business Owners Association in China, which manage 11,000 corporate members, but I'm also the CEO of Welcome China and Digital China, the largest tourism marketing agency in China. So in this topic, in this session, I want to touch on the branding. And then, of course, I can answer your question on FDI. That's my profession. Thank you, Professor. And I'm very good to see my old friend, Minister Najib. I see him everywhere, a few times a year, maybe. And then good to see Clare and Cuthbert, if I pronounce your name correctly. You are all veterans. I just want to share my little knowledge on the Africa as a single destinations. But let me start with the previous session and echo on the stigma that the minister mentioned about the media coverage, the wrong image. So when we think about Africa in China, we think about two pictures. The first picture, we think about wildlife. The second picture we think about is the NGO raising money, showing some issues in Africa. So this is wrong, especially when they talk about the previous minister from Western Cape, talk about, I think it was David, the previous minister, talk about the misperception about this South African variant. You know, this have to be corrected in media. We need to use the power of social media, the power of media to broadcast to the world the correct message. But I think this have not done enough so far. More can be done because of these stereotypes, these preconceptions that we have on Africa continent. In terms of branding, this is some of the barriers we talk about. For example, we think Africa is monotonous. We think Africa is a monoculture. We think there's a backward. We think lack of history. We think it's lack of infrastructure, so on and so forth. But it's not. Africa has so much unique selling point, diversity that is offering. So before I go on further on how we can market as a single destination, we can learn from the block of countries they have done, for example, tourism year. I'm sure everyone remember the Europe-China tourism year 2018. I just take that as an example. My company coordinated the China Pacific Tourism Year 2019 for 10 countries in Africa, in China. So what's the result? We increased from 125,000 Chinese visitors to 200,000 Chinese visitors. How do you do that? So this, I will want to go back to Professor before taking too much time, but those are the set the stage on how can be improved as a single destination, as an Africa continent, how we market as a single destination. Back to you, Professor.
Thank you very much. That's absolutely wonderful. I think we've done the first round. Let me actually put a proposal into the table that I was just thinking while you were all talking. And Minister and Cuthbert and Clare probably can take that forward in a very easy way. I would like to see a competition on a hashtag Love Africa. And I like you love Africa. Hashtag Love Africa. And can be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you guys are using. But I would like your young population, the students from school, the students from university, to come up and express all the beauty of Africa and express all these wonderful resources and express all these wonderful experience that you can have in Africa. And that is, Minister, I think that is going to take away the stigma in a way that, you know, whoever is not moving the image forward, we will have to look into the realities, and we can see the wonderful scenes that, you know, every time I come to Ghana or to Kenya or to South Africa, the music, the people, the street food, all these wonderful things. And I'll tell you a little story. Some years ago, I came to Ghana and I met one of my ex-students. And she wanted to take me to a very nice international restaurant. And I said, no, let's walk around the neighborhood. And we went to some very little, nice little restaurant where the locals, they welcome us in the best amazing way. And I was taking pictures, and this ex-student of mine, who's a wonderful lady, and she represents Africa everywhere, told me, look, Professor, you taught me a new lesson. And the lesson is go bottom up. See what's happening in the neighborhood. Bring the people into the authentic experiences and tell the story. And I think a competition of video, a competition of photography may actually do that cost effectively and populate the world with hashtag Love Africa. And I think that will be one of the best ways of coming forward. I know that Alicia is going to come back in a minute and she is going to tell me that we need to hurry up. But I'd like to give you 1 minute each to come back with a second position and actually see how we can take all these innovative marketing and branding techniques that we see around the world, and how can we bring the right image and the right brand out of Africa. Minister.
Thank you very much, Professor. First of all, a quick one. I want to appreciate Professor Lee. I want to call you Marcos. That's the name I have used to it. Marcos, you are spot on. Stereotypes is what is killing our efforts. Rwanda is doing well. But imagine the stereotype, genocide. Yeah, again, just the other day we had Ebola. Ebola is in West Africa. South Africa suffered because of the stereotype. You know, it is conveniently you say it's homogeneous, and then conveniently you say it's not homogeneous. Yeah, so those are the challenges we are facing. But with the new technological dispensation, the social media, the agenda is changing. Yeah, I agree with you, Professor, is that the young people now are taking the story out themselves. They are not waiting for government. They are not waiting for the mainstream media. They are going against the mainstream media. I can tell you one time CNN, when President Obama came to Kenya, yeah, CNN said, hotbed of terrorism is Kenya. Immediately, Kenyans and young people in the social media and the rest of the world actually refuted this. Kenya is not a hotbed for terrorism. And President Obama came, and many other presidents came to Kenya, and it is a safe destination. We get incidents. We get incidents like any part of the world. I have seen the statistics in the United States of the pandemic currently, and I have seen statistics of crime happening on a daily basis. But the international media would not report those crimes because those are local news. They want international news. So anything happens negative in Africa becomes news, but anything positive is being run down. And I agree with Clare. When these people come in here, like Richard Quest came to Rwanda, and he came to Kenya 2 years ago, and it is mind-boggling. They can't believe they have discovered a new destination or a new world altogether when they come to the continent of Africa. So branding is the right thing to do. But again, we need to push hard. The narrative Chairman is talking about, yeah? We are writing new narratives, but it is not reaching out because it's being suffocated, yeah? Because remember, we are in competition. We are not an island of our own in the continent of Africa. We are in competition with Europe. We are in competition with China. We are in competition with America. We are in competition with Southeast Asia. So everybody is competing. And now with this pandemic, the lessons is that you cannot travel overseas. So what you do is travel locally. So everybody have realized there is a domestic product and a domestic market. And from the domestic market, you can at least not replace the revenue lost from international travel. And that's why all of us, we are looking at domestic tourism currently, because the world is closed down. I can tell you for us, we are technologically savvy as our young generation in the continent of Africa, not only in Kenya. The continent of Africa, the young population are moving their agendas. It's not government anymore. It's not the media anymore. It is them. And that is the spirit we want to proceed in changing the narrative for Brand Africa.
Absolutely. And that is the hope for Africa, to bring all this young population, because you have the youngest population. And you're actually using technology very effectively because it's all on smartphones to actually bring the positive message out. And if there's anybody who is not listening, they'll be forced to listen because they'll see it everywhere. Love Africa. That's the bit I like to bring forward. Claire, would you like to have your 1 minute, please?
Yes, thank you very much. And just to build on again what Minister Balala and my colleagues, Cuthbert and Mr. Lee talked about earlier, I think the best way to really tackle this brand issue is to have more and more people exposed to the truth about what our countries have to offer. I gave the example of Richard Quest, Mr. Balala did the same for Kenya, and many others. We bring journalists, we bring tour operators, and we bring them on familiarization trips for free. They come to the country, we pay for everything, and we tell them, just see, we're not telling you to view us in a different room, just experience Rwanda. And then you go out there with what you see. And we've seen that really makes a very big difference. And we've also organized conferences. And one way we've seen that is very easy to get people to see the countries organizing conferences. So we work with the UN, We've built a convention center. People come here for meetings and then they realize there's a lot more than just attending a meeting in the country. And they discover things that they would never expect in a country like ours. For example, did you know that the World Economic Forum and many others rank Rwanda among the 10 safest destinations in the world? Not in Africa, not in a certain section of the world, but in the world. Nobody would expect that an African country would rank top 10 in the world, safer than many other developed countries. But this is something that we need to really get out there and really get people exposed to. The last point that I want to talk about in terms of working together, we should look at the example we have within the East African community, and Minister Balala would know this. We have this single destination marketing that we do. When we go to ITM or when we go to WTM in London, we have our section where we do trade fairs. As East Africa, it's Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and we really promote our country as a destination. And I think building on this, we can do this for the African continent if we got all the places and pieces together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All those are very effective marketing techniques, and I think the more you collaborate, the better it will bring out the message and will take everything forward. Cuthbert, would you like to share your plans with the African Tourist Board and how you can facilitate some of these activities? To unmute.
Thank you so much, Prof. Yes, the Honorable Minister has indicated that, look, we also need to look within. That is focusing on your domestic, on your regional, and on your continental segment market, which has been actually been ignored for some time. I have said at the meeting when I went to Cote d'Ivoire, where we realized that our tourism sector, this also falls under branding, was structured in such a way that it does not include your domestic travelers. It only included your international travelers who come from abroad, and you tend to ignore your local market, who actually plays a critical role. Imagine, as I indicated, that if each and every member state, we can shout with one voice and training all our citizens to be brand ambassadors of selling our destination. So in the process of saying Africa is ready to actively participate within the global space framework, we really need to address some fundamental issues that impacts our progress. I was so disappointed, especially when you talk of connectivity, that is not structured to your local travelers. It's only structured to some guys coming from abroad, whereby we have challenges. And my honorable, if I could be a little bit harsh as the policymaker, you represent us so that we can drive these progressive engagements to the right decision makers. Connectivity in Africa, which still remains a challenge. So we need to make sure that we integrate our efforts together. I am glad that Clare, she's actually, I've been following the progresses of Rwanda. We need to be able to pollinate among ourselves as member states. Let us learn from our neighbors. Let's stop the segmentation so that we work towards the objective of bringing Africa within the global playing field. The ground is not level, so it's high time that we bring all member states together and shout with one voice. Africa, yes, we are ready. We have so much to offer.
Absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Marcus, your last word, please, and how we can help Africa to flourish.
Yeah, my last word for this session is,
yes.
China bring a few millions, more than 1 million tourists to Africa continent. We increased about 40% in the past 5 years, pre-COVID, of course. I want to set the stage. Many younger generations go there, families goes there, females more than male going there. Younger generation, I mean, both those are born after 70, those are born after 80, take about 62%, including myself. So how I buy the packages, how I choose destination, actually, I'm part of the group. So I have just a few conclusions to make from my side, from the Chinese perspective is, number one, understanding the appeal of individual destination. Number two, understanding the shift of the market trends. Everyone knows about moving from group to FIT, especially China right now, from group to custom-made. And third point is enhance the B2B marketing even right now. For example, do e-learning. This is the best time. Don't wait for the gate to open and everyone move to do marketing. So now is the time, not when you got enough budget, or now, not when the border is open, not that. And the fourth point is B2C. Social media, don't go back to the old school, not just take Facebook, Twitter. That's not enough. My company managed like 30 platforms. I mean, WeChat, Weibo is no longer enough. We have to keep in the trend with the niche marketing. For example, female marketing, knowledge marketing, certain target group. And my last point is about how China ready is your destination. I'm a big advocate about China ready. For example, I go to South Africa every year, and then I keep on telling every year to them, and still, there's still so much to improve on China readiness. So I want to conclude with one last point is, how can we market Africa as a single destination? I have one idea, is to launch the Visit Africa 2025, or to launch the China-Africa Tourism Year 2025. This is one single largest marketing campaign that can unite the entire African continent and market as one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I think you've got a lot of good ideas that they're all packaged together. And I think if we kind of bring all this knowledge and this expertise together, we'll have wonderful results. It needs to be cost effective, it needs to be quick, and now is the time. I think Cuthbert said that now is the time. It's all to bring all the wonderful power and all the wonderful energy that's coming out of Africa. Thank you very much. I think we can talk for another 3 hours, but my friend Ibrahim and Alicia would not like us to do so, but hopefully we'll have the opportunity to meet in person sometime very soon, and we will be able to take some of these things forward offline and different forums. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.